Well, I still got a pretty big mess here, trying to get this stuff straightened out, all my parts and stuff lined up. But one of the things I did do is I found the washers I was looking for. Before I could put the rest of those interior panels in, I wanted to put these control pulleys in for the aileron. The lower, I guess they're the upper ones, but they go down to the bottom of the fuselage and then up over the top of the wing. And I got new pulleys. This is one of the old pulleys. They take a bushing that goes in the pulley. The pulley is a phenolic pulley, and then they have a bushing that goes in there. The bolt goes through there, and then this thing pivots on that bolt, and they get rusty, and the bolt gets rusty, of course, and they freeze up, and then the cable just slides back and forth on the pulley and wears it out. So I got new bushings, stainless steel bushings, and I got stainless steel screws to go in there to pivot on, and lubed them up. The bracket fits around these pulleys, and then this bushing fits tight against the bracket so that the pulley spins on the bolt as it goes through there. Well, they have these special washers that go on the side for spacers, and I replaced all of those too, because they'd get rusty too when I got new ones. So here they are. The Piper number is 81342-042. The U on there means it's Univer, of course. Going through all the stuff, I found those. So I decided to go ahead and put those pulleys on, and then route that cable out, both of them on both sides. Punch the hole in there in that grommet, put the cable through, and the pulleys are all in. Got the nuts on them. They take a castellated nut so you don't tighten the nut up, and a cotter pin in them. So I got that done on both sides. Now I didn't necessarily have to do that because those side panels are cut out to fit over those brackets for those pulleys, but it's a lot easier to do it without those in the way. I had to take the soldering iron, heat it up, and melt a hole through that grommet and through the fabric there. So anyway, now I've got the cables outside and out of the way of the inside there, and I can keep working on the interior. I get a little bit of progress getting this thing assembled. It takes a little bit to figure everything out again. I've got these interior panels put in. I've had them in and out of here a dozen times, but it's a whole lot different putting them in here with the fabric on here. Before I could reach through any place and put screws and stuff in. That was handy, but the even handier thing was that you could see where the screws were supposed to go from the outside and get the holes lined up properly. And once the fabric's on, everything's blind in here. You can't really do that. And then of course these panels are black and the holes are black, so it get kind of tough trying to find the holes in there to get the screws in them. But got them in. I don't have them totally tight down yet. The window panels come over the top of these, and then they'll get screwed in. Before I can put the window panels in, I got to put the headliner in. Before I put it in, I want to make up new flap cables. The standard ones are going to be too short on here. They're up inside of the headliner, so I want to get those done first. Decided I didn't want to cut up the old cables. I might be able to use them again, or maybe somebody else will use them, see what kind of shape they're in. I ordered new clevises to go on there. I'll make the cables up. I'm just going to make them up halfway. I'm just going to make them up with the clevis ends on this end, and then I'll leave them extra long like I did with the aileron cables and run them out through the side here. And then once we get the wings put on and stuff and get it set up, then I can make them up to the right length then. According to the book, they're 34.5 inches long standard, but that won't work on this airplane. And it's not a standard 4 inches wider. You'd think, okay, it's 4 inches wider than the standard Cub. You can just make them 2 inches longer on each side, but the dimensions don't follow through all the way like that on everything, so I've got to make them up to fit. I've got the floorboard. It's been in, but I didn't have it screwed down. I only had one screw holding it down because I didn't have these trim pan pieces on here. I've got these stainless steel angle brackets put in here and screwed down. That helps hold everything together, and it kind of makes this thing more liquid tight. It would do haul stuff that has moisture in it, sometimes game bags and stuff like that with meat in it, and of course all the paraphernalia that goes with doing the fish surveys and stuff like that. So you do get a lot of gritty stuff in there, and this will hopefully help keep all that gurry and grit and stuff from going down through the side of the airplane and getting down in there where it'll start stinking and rotting. Oh, it took quite a bit to get those holes lined up. Like I said, you can't see them from the outside, and it's dark, and so we've got two holes to line up here. I've got the holes that go down here through the floorboard into nut plates there, And then I've got holes and nut plates in a bracket that goes behind this panel here. So we've got to line both those holes up. So we've got to line this side panel up with the bracket down on this angle where these number 4 screws go into, and you also got to line the floorboard up with this L bracket here and everything to go down in there. So it was kind of tough. This side wasn't so bad, it was easier to work on, but this side over here I had a heck of a time with it, but I finally got it. Got my under seat storage in and covers for it. That's all in. And you've got a trim panel that goes over here on both sides to keep crap from going down underneath that panel and to help hold that under seat storage in. That thing's held down with this rear floorboard, and then it's held down with this little panel, trim panel that I made up there in the front, this Kydex kick panel that keeps things from going back underneath the seat there. That's pretty good. Oh, this left-hand panel, I've got it secured here on the back side of it, but the front side of it I don't have it tied down because I'll have to pull it out a little bit to get that front panel in. This right side panel the same way, and then of course on the right side here there'll be some weather stripping or something to go up around here. I have to figure out how I'm going to do that going up this window. Well, I had to put the flap handle in before I put this panel on the side, on the left side, because that panel covers up that little tab where the cable hooks onto the flap handle. So I just set it in there. I don't have it mounted. I didn't put the seat in yet. I am going to put the seat in and hook the battery up to test the electrical system again. When we tested it last summer, the mechanic was here, the IA was here, we inspected it and tested it, and everything tested out fine, tested out good, but I'm going to test it again before I finish covering everything up. I just want to make sure before everything gets covered up that it's all working the way it's supposed to. I'd kind of come to a standstill on putting the rest of the interior in the airplane. I got those side panels in, and I want to put the headliner for the baggage compartment in next before I can put the window panels in. Putting the headliner in, I needed to put those flap cables in. I was going to make up new flap cables to go in there, and they attach with some clevises. I've got the stainless steel aircraft cable. It's 7 by 19, and this is what I've been using to make up all the aircraft cables with. Well, I've got the length of that, and all my cable making stuff here. So we'll put these together and get those put on and that real short shoulder harness on, and then I can finish putting that interior together. Well, I got the flap cables made up, at least part way. This is the end that'll go inside the fuselage up above the headliner. Got the shackles on this end. The other ends are free, so I cut them 48 inches long just to make sure I had plenty. And then I put a piece of heat shrink tubing on the ends of them down there, shrunk them down so they don't unravel while everything is being worked on. So next thing I'll do is go ahead and get these cables put in and put that shoulder harness in, then we can put the headliner in. I got these flap cables put in. The left one runs down this side, and they tie in back here to the main cable. And those put in with an AN3-5 bolt with an AN310 castellated nut and a cotter pin. So those are all in. Cotter pins are in, so they're safetied in. Everything's all copacetic on those. Put the shoulder harness back in. That's all tied up in there. I could put the headliner in now. That's what I needed to do to put that in. But there's one more thing that I want to do before I put the headliner in. A few years ago, I put in a 406 megahertz ELT. I had the 121.5 ELT in here when it was new. But we were flying one day and we heard a call, a mayday call, that a boat had went down, and we were headed down to that area, so we decided to go see if we could help. We got down there, it was about an hour from the time we heard the call on the radio, and just as we got there, the helicopter come and they flew right to the point where those people were, just using the 406 megahertz or EPIRB on a boat it's called. They were able to go right to the point, right to the beach, and pick those people up even after the boat sank. So these 406 megahertz ELTs, each one of them sends out its own discrete code, and those codes are registered. This one's registered to this airplane. So when it goes off, they know exactly which airplane it is that's going off. They also have the capability, some of them, this one does, the capability of transmitting a GPS position. So I run a data cable from the Garmin 250XL. That's a COM GPS radio, and it has a GPS output signal, a data signal that comes out of it. So I run a cable from the COM radio, the GPS, back here to the ELT, and I'm pretty sure everything will work on it. But the last thing that I want to do before I close things up in there, they have you make up a tester to hook up to that ELT and test it to make sure that it's getting a GPS signal. That's what I want to do. I've got everything I need now. I've got the resistors and a diode to make up a tester for that. Before I put that headliner in, I'm going to go ahead and make up that tester. I've got the battery here. I want to hook the battery up. I've got everything open up there, the panels and stuff like that. Before I close anything in that front end, I want to make sure and test everything. So I'll do that. It'll give me a chance to test that ELT and test the rest of the electrical system in the airplane.